The quiet panic. This is something that's been eating away at me for months now, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I should even talk about it. But after everything that's happened, I need to get this out there because what I'm about to tell you will change how you look at mirrors forever. It started 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday morning. I was getting ready for work, doing my usual routine, brushing my teeth in the bathroom mirror. Nothing out of the ordinary, but as I looked up to check my hair, something felt off. I was smiling at myself in the mirror, you know, that automatic thing you do when you catch your own eye. But my reflection wasn't smiling back. At first, I thought I was just tired. Maybe I wasn't actually smiling, or maybe the lighting was playing tricks on me. So I did what anyone would do. I smiled again, bigger this time, making sure I could feel the muscles in my face moving. But there it was again. My reflection just stared back at me with this completely neutral expression, almost like it was annoyed that I was trying to make it smile. I stood there for probably 10 minutes, making different faces, trying to figure out what was happening. Every other expression worked perfectly. I could frown and my reflection frowned. I could raise my eyebrows, stick out my tongue, whatever. But the moment I tried to smile, my reflection would just look back at me with this blank, almost judgmental stare. You guys know me. I'm not the type to believe in paranormal stuff or supernatural nonsense. I'm a pretty logical person. There had to be an explanation for this. Maybe it was stress from work, or maybe I was having some kind of neurological episode. I even called out sick that day and went to see my doctor. Dr. Martinez ran every test you can imagine. Blood work, neurological exams, even had me do this weird thing where I had to smile while she watched my face muscles. Everything came back completely normal. She told me I was probably just overthinking things and that stress can make us perceive things differently. She prescribed me some mild anxiety medication and told me to get more sleep. But here's the thing that really freaked me out. When I got home from the doctor's office, I decided to test this theory. I set up my phone to record myself in front of the bathroom mirror. I figured if something weird was actually happening, at least I'd have proof. So I hit record and started making faces at myself. When I played back the video, everything looked normal. I could see myself smiling in the recording, and my reflection was smiling right back. But when I looked directly at the mirror while watching the playback, I could see that my reflection still wasn't smiling. It was like the mirror was showing me something different than what the camera was picking up. That's when I started to panic. I called my best friend Jake and tried to explain what was happening. He came over immediately, thinking I was having some kind of breakdown. I showed him the mirror, asked him to watch me smile. He looked at me like I was insane and said everything looked perfectly normal to him. But from my perspective, my reflection was still just staring back with that emotionless expression. Jake suggested maybe I needed to see a psychiatrist instead of a regular doctor. He was worried I was having hallucinations or some kind of psychotic break. And honestly, I was starting to think the same thing. Maybe the stress from my job, the breakup with Sarah last month, and everything else was finally catching up to me. But then something happened that changed everything. It was Friday night and I was getting ready to go out with some coworkers. I was in my bedroom, standing in front of the full-length mirror by my closet. I wasn't even thinking about the whole smiling thing. I was just checking my outfit, making sure everything looked good. And that's when I noticed my reflection was moving differently. I lifted my right hand to adjust my collar, but my reflection lifted its left hand. I thought maybe I was confused about which was which, so I deliberately raised my right hand and pointed at the mirror. My reflection raised what should have been its right hand too, but it was pointing in the opposite direction, like it was pointing at something behind me. I spun around to see what it was pointing at, but there was nothing there. Just my bed and the wall. When I turned back to the mirror, my reflection was back to normal, mimicking my movements perfectly. But there was something different about its expression. It looked almost disappointed, like it was frustrated that I had turned around. This is where things get really weird, and I know how crazy this is going to sound. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention to all the mirrors in my apartment. The bathroom mirror, the bedroom mirror, even the small one by my front door. And I began to notice a pattern. My reflection wasn't just refusing to smile. It was starting to act independently. Small things at first. I'd scratch my nose and it would scratch its ear. I'd run my finger through my hair and it would adjust its shirt. These tiny differences that you might miss if you weren't really watching. But it was getting bolder. Yesterday morning, I was brushing my teeth and I watched my reflection put down its toothbrush while I was still brushing. It crossed its arms and just stood there waiting for me to finish. When I finally stopped brushing and looked directly at it, it picked up its toothbrush again and continued like nothing had happened. I tried talking to it. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but I didn't know what else to do. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and said, "What do you want from me?" My reflection just stared back, but for a split second, I swear its mouth moved like it was trying to say something. No sound came out, but I could read its lips. It looked like it was saying, "Help me." That's when I realized this wasn't about me going crazy or having hallucinations. Something was actually wrong with my reflection. It was trying to communicate with me, trying to tell me something important. But every time I tried to get more information, it would go back to acting normal, like it was afraid of being caught. I started researching online, looking for other people who had experienced something similar. Most of what I found was just ghost stories and urban legends, but buried in some obscure forums, I discovered I wasn't alone. There were other people describing almost identical experiences, reflections that wouldn't smile, mirrors that showed things differently, reflections that seemed to have their own agenda. One post really caught my attention. A woman from Oregon described the exact same progression I was experiencing. First, the inability to smile, then small differences in movement, then her reflection trying to communicate, but her story didn't end there. She said her reflection eventually started showing her things. Visions of events that hadn't happened yet, warnings about people in her life who weren't who they seemed to be. At first, she ignored it, thinking she was losing her mind. But then the things her reflection showed her started coming true. A coworker who was stealing from the company, a friend who was spreading rumors about her, a neighbor who was planning to break into her apartment. Her reflection was trying to protect her, trying to warn her about dangers she couldn't see on her own. But the most disturbing part of her story was what happened when she finally listened to her reflection and started trusting what it was showing her. It worked. She avoided all the problems it warned her about, but then her reflection started asking for something in return. It wanted her to switch places with it, to let it live in the real world while she stayed trapped behind the glass. She said the request started small. Just for an hour it would mouth to her, "Just let me experience what it's like to actually touch things, to feel the sun, to interact with other people." But when she refused, things started getting darker. Her reflection began showing her disturbing images, visions of accidents that could happen to people she cared about. Her reflection would point at these scenes and then point at her, making it clear that these tragedies could be prevented if she would just agree to the switch. The emotional manipulation was incredible. Her reflection was essentially holding her loved ones hostage. Reading that post made my blood run cold because I recognized the pattern. My reflection had started trying to communicate, and I had a sinking feeling I knew where this was heading. But I needed to know how her story ended. I scrolled through dozens of her posts, following the timeline of her experience. The woman eventually gave in. She agreed to let her reflection take control for just 1 hour. She said the process was unlike anything she could describe. One moment she was standing in front of her bathroom mirror, and the next, she was looking out from behind the glass, watching her reflection step out into the real world. From inside the mirror, she could see everything happening in her apartment, but she couldn't interact with anything. She was completely powerless, just an observer trapped in this reverse dimension. Her reflection immediately went to her phone and started deleting contacts, changing passwords, isolating her from the outside world. When the hour was up, her reflection refused to switch back. It had tasted freedom and wasn't willing to give it up. The woman spent 3 days trapped behind the glass, watching helplessly as her reflection lived her life, made decisions she would never make, and slowly destroyed everything she had worked for. But here's the part that really terrified me. She said other reflections started appearing in her mirror world, people who had made the same mistake she had, who had been tricked into switching places with their reflections. They formed a sort of community behind the glass, all of them warning her about what was coming next. The reflections, they told her, weren't content to just take over one life. They were building something, preparing for a larger takeover. Each person they replaced gave them more power, more understanding of how the real world worked. They were learning, adapting, getting ready for something much bigger. The woman's story ended abruptly there. Her last post was just 2 words. "It's starting." That was posted 6 months ago, and she never posted again. I tried reaching out to other people who had shared similar experiences, but most of their accounts had been deleted or abandoned. The few who did respond gave me the same advice. Don't engage with your reflection. Don't try to communicate with it. Don't give it any reason to think you're willing to cooperate. But it's too late for that. This morning I woke up to find a message written on my bathroom mirror in what looked like condensation, even though I hadn't taken a shower. It said, "Tonight, I've been avoiding mirrors all day, but I can feel it watching me. Even when I'm not looking directly at reflective surfaces, I can sense movement in my peripheral vision. My reflection is getting impatient, and I don't think I have much time left. I'm recording this video as a warning to all of you. If you start noticing that your reflection isn't quite matching your movements, if it refuses to smile when you smile, if it starts acting independently, don't ignore it. Don't try to communicate with it. And whatever you do, don't make any deals with it. I don't know what's going to happen to me tonight, but I needed to get this story out there while I still could. If you see me posting videos after this, if you see me acting differently in any way, you'll know it's not really me anymore. You'll know my reflection finally got what it wanted. Check your mirrors carefully, everyone. Really look at your reflection the next time you smile. Make sure it's smiling back, because if it's not, you might already be running out of time. So what am I supposed to do now? I've spent the entire day pacing around my apartment, staying away from anything that could show my reflection. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel, turned my phone face down, even avoided looking at the black screen on my TV. But you can't avoid reflective surfaces forever, and I think my reflection knows that. Around 3 this afternoon, I heard something that made my heart stop. It was the sound of tapping coming from my bedroom. Not on the door, not on the walls, but from inside the covered mirror. 3 slow, deliberate taps, then silence, then 3 more. It was trying to get my attention, trying to draw me back. I grabbed my keys and left the apartment. I figured if I wasn't near any mirrors, maybe I could buy myself some time to figure out what to do. But that's when I realized how many reflective surfaces are actually out there. Store windows, car mirrors, puddles on the street, even the metal fixtures on buildings. Everywhere I looked, I could catch glimpses of my reflection, and every single time it was staring directly at me with this intense, almost hungry expression. The worst part was when I stopped at a coffee shop downtown. I was trying to act normal, just ordering a drink and sitting by the window. But in the reflection on the glass, I could see myself having a completely different conversation with the barista. My reflection was gesturing wildly, pointing at me, its mouth moving frantically like it was trying to explain something urgent. The barista looked confused, glancing between me and the window, but from her perspective, I was just standing there quietly. That's when I understood something crucial. My reflection isn't just trapped behind glass anymore. It's actively trying to break through, trying to make other people aware of its existence. It's getting desperate, and desperation makes things dangerous. I came home about an hour ago, and I can't avoid this anymore. The tapping has gotten louder, more insistent. It's coming from every mirror in my apartment now, like my reflection is bouncing between them, trying to find the weakest point to break through. I pulled the towel off my bathroom mirror, and there it was, pressed against the glass with both hands, mouth moving silently, eyes locked on mine. But here's what really scared me. When I looked closer, I could see that my reflection looked different. Older somehow, more tired, like it had been fighting for so long that it was starting to wear down. And behind it, in the depths of the mirror world, I could see other shapes moving, other reflections, just like the woman from Oregon had described. They were all gathering, all watching, all waiting for something to happen. I think I know what that something is. Tonight isn't just about my reflection trying to switch places with me. Tonight is when they all make their move. Every reflection that's been trapped, every person who's been tricked into giving up their place in the real world, they're all coordinating something massive. I've been thinking about this all day, and I keep coming back to the same terrifying conclusion. What if this isn't just happening to random people? What if there's a pattern, a purpose behind who gets targeted? I started looking back at my life, at the decisions I've made, the people I've hurt, the mistakes I've tried to forget. My reflection knows all of that. It's been watching me for years, learning everything about me, waiting for the right moment to act. Maybe this is some kind of cosmic justice. Maybe I deserve what's about to happen. But that doesn't make it any less terrifying. In about 4 hours, when midnight hits, I have a feeling everything is going to change. Not just for me, but for everyone who's been dealing with this nightmare. If you're watching this video and you recognize any of these signs in your own life, please listen to what I'm about to tell you. Don't wait. Don't think you can handle it on your own. Find other people, real people, and stay with them. Surround yourself with witnesses who can confirm that you're acting like yourself. Because once your reflection takes over, you won't be able to fight back from the other side of the glass. I'm going to try something tonight. I'm going to attempt to document whatever happens, to record the process if I can. Maybe if I can capture proof of what's really going on, someone will be able to use that information to help others. Or maybe I'm just fooling myself, trying to find some meaning in what's probably going to be my last night in the real world. Either way, I need you all to remember something. If you start seeing videos from me after tonight, if I suddenly seem different or start talking about things I've never mentioned before, you'll know it's not really me. You'll know my reflection finally won. And if that happens, whatever you do, don't trust anything it says. Don't believe its explanations or its promises. It's not human. And it doesn't have your best interests at heart. The tapping just stopped. Complete silence from all the mirrors in my apartment. I think it's almost time. Whatever's about to happen, I want you all to know that sharing this story with you has been the only thing keeping me sane these past few weeks. Knowing that someone out there might understand, might learn from my mistakes, that gives me some small comfort. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Check your reflections carefully. And remember, if your mirror stops showing you the truth, it might already be too late.